Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's FounderHub Demo Day. If you're new to our demo days, we hold these events every Wednesday at noon Eastern Time. And then the idea is to bring companies that are either early stage or raising money, and then have them pitch, have them practice their pitch deck. And for you guys, obviously, you need to get a reference on what makes up a good pitch deck. Usually, the session lasts around 20 minutes. Our guest for today is Vladimir Kovin from
Kovin.
Overcome the Barrier.
Vladimir Kovin.
Kovin, sorry about that.
No.
Overcome the Barrier is a platform that brings transparency and accountability to peer-to-peer foreign language learning in high school and colleges. Vladimir, sorry for missing your last name, but
No.
welcome to our session.
Thank you for having me.
So like I said, Vladimir will be sharing his pitch deck today, and then we'll open up the session for questions and feedback on the pitch deck, and hopefully other stuff related to that deck. So if you have any questions or comments, just leave them on the YouTube chat. If you're part of our FounderHub community, the link is down in the description. You can send your thoughts and comments and questions through there as well. And without further ado, I think we're ready to go, Vladimir.
All right, I'm going to share my screen and start. So here's a ton of my pitch decks from Slidebean. By the way, I fell in love with Slidebean, and it literally takes 10 minutes now to tweak and make changes that I want to do. But let's start with our presentation. As Jose said, we've built and developed a software that brings transparency and accountability to language learning. And the direction that we are taking this company now is to do it on a peer-to-peer level, because besides all its based bells and whistles, it allows anybody, and including high school student, to teach his native language. As a matter of fact, I believe I believe that high school students in particular are better equipped and teaching their native language. They are writing taking SATs, writing essays to enter colleges. They're a lot more in tune with what's happening right now in language, more so than adults that already graduated and worked in professional life. So the big problem that exists not only in America but overall in the world is that kids are required to take a foreign language course. For the rest of the world, it's going to be English, right? In America, it's 70% of the time it's Spanish. Chinese is the language that's getting more momentum right now, understandably so. The problem with it is because there are many students, only one teacher. They bury them with these pointless exercises, read materials, and it simply doesn't work. And the key ingredient of one-on-one interaction is what's missing. By the way, each teacher in America costs about $50,000 per year, at the very least. Now, we propose to match and pair high school students across the world who will exchange their time to teach their own native language using our platform. And obviously, we will eliminate that interaction, what would normally cost thousands of dollars going to study abroad in Barcelona for an American kid, or for a person from any other country to come to an English-speaking country. It costs a lot of money. I was going to say taxpayers, but no. So 1 hour a week, a student from America will teach English, and in exchange, a student from Costa Rica or from Argentina will teach Spanish. And as we add more and more countries, the more languages will be added. So it's not just going to be limited to Spanish or Chinese. As a matter of fact, in South Dakota, there is no foreign language classes, period, because nobody wants to. No Spanish-speaking or Chinese-speaking teacher wants to move to South Dakota. And basically, it's tutoring. It's an old idea, but the only thing that's changing is that our platform creates transparency and accountability. So what does the platform entail? Basically, the key part is that the instructor, the high school student, all he has to do during the lesson is transcribe what the other student says into our platform, verbatim, the way he heard it, right? And then he would make the corrections. And as he's making these corrections, you will see it on the left here, the green will pop up and the red will get rid of. And it takes about 15, 20 minutes for each instructor to kind of become familiar with how to do it. So right away, the student can see it in real time. And this visualization, this visual aspect kicks in, and they get confident, and they get rid of these mistakes much faster. So this also creates personalized content and homework. These mistakes will then become fill-in-the-blank exercise and multiple choice exercise, which is personalized to this specific student. Rather than trying to cover and target all the students at the same time, we are able to identify what they need to learn based on the mistakes they made. Again, it takes only 15 minutes, 25 minutes to learn how to use our platform. Now, what the teacher and the parent, the actual teacher in the classroom, can do, they can go through these transcripts, right? As a matter of fact, an American high school teacher, like an English teacher, can look at his students of what they did in terms of teaching, how they did it, kind of give them the reinforcement. So potentially it sort of enables, let's say there is a teacher that can check what they learned, let's say in whatever language, Swedish language or whatever, but they can do it on the other side. The Swedish teacher in the Swedish country, in Sweden, can actually check that. And last thing is the motivation. We can actually measure how fast the learner speaks and their error percentage on a lesson-by-lesson basis. And as you know, in anything learning, and specifically in languages, if you can measure something and track something and you can see progress on a lesson-by-lesson basis, then it gives you that boost in confidence and motivation. Now, the market size, there are 37,000 high schools in America. We're hoping that there are about 15 students. Only 20% take foreign language course right now. And basically, we are looking, our business model is to charge a license fee, about $10,000 per year. Rosetta Stone charges $13,000 for up to 150 learners. We are also going to expand it to offer it on a per individual licensing of about $200 per year, comparable with what Slidebean charges per year for its membership. Our initial go-to-market strategy is private high schools. A lot of them have sister schools overseas, so we think we can kind of combine it together. By the way, I forgot to mention that this number 37,000 will increase depending on how many high schools we can add elsewhere. And we think we have a lot more. We're going to have a lot more interest outside of America because of the demand for English language. Then we'll add colleges potentially, and so forth. And the way we're going to approach is the pilot. We're going to start pairing them up, get people to become confident that high school students indeed can teach each other language. And then we're going to start getting them to on a premium subscription basis to actually pay for the license. In the meantime, we have a second revenue stream. We will create all these new teachers who will be able to make money on the side as they're entering college, as they possibly compete with the jobs like McDonald's or Walmart or Amazon for delivery, right? Some of our teachers with our existing business model or previous business model are making up to $25 an hour. So we think that a high school student could potentially do it. And all he needs to do is to learn a platform for 30 minutes, how to use it. And after that, the rest is just making that hourly rate, sort of like an Uber job on the side, or this is actually better. You already have the skill set. You've been doing it since you are 6 months or 9 months old. And by the way, there are billions of people that would love to learn English, right? In China and Southeast Asia in particular. Again, we're going to start with high schools. We'll get into colleges, potentially healthcare, military, law enforcement. All of them need to learn language. And you can already imagine how American law enforcement on that border cooperating with Mexican law enforcement and learning each other's language of what to say right there at that second when somebody is illegally crossing the border.
Vladimir, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say that you're over the 5-minute mark now.
Okay, I'm about to finish. The business model is P2P, peer-to-peer, and this is our team. And finally, our financials, we've made over $1.5 million in cumulative revenue over the last 9 years in B2B market, where we taught companies, employees. And we are now going into this new venture for us, and we are hopefully you're going to create opportunity, fluency, and inclusion, and get rid of the waste of money. And this is our high schools that are doing pilots right now. And that's it. Thank you for the time, and I'm ready for the questions. Sorry for going over the time.
No worries, no worries. Thanks a lot for your pitch, Vladimir. So as a reminder to everyone watching, I see that we have a good number of people. Questions or comments or thoughts about Vladimir's pitch, please leave them on the comments. I think he'll find them very useful, and they'll certainly be useful for our discussion. My first thought, Vladimir, aside from the time, is that I think that you have a really cool business going on. I think that your traction and the revenue that you guys have generated so far is your best proof of the success of what you're building and the market need for it. Maybe you should lead with that. Maybe you should talk about it earlier on in the pitch deck. I noticed that and I think this is both good and bad. You're passionate about your business, and then you sort of stopped on many of the slides to add comments or to mention different features about the product. Keeping the attention span of people is a little bit of a combination of the slides and what you're saying. This is a very awkward and extreme format where we're only seeing the slides and hearing your voice as we go through the deck. But I think especially when you were talking about the product, you sort of talked a lot about the features and how it worked and how it could help students improve their language learning, but we didn't get to see that on the slides, right? So maybe first think of a little script that you can use as you talk about this and write that down, so you can kind of follow that script and you don't have to make it up as you go. Making it up as you go is I'm all about that, but when you're limited in time, it's better to not memorize a script, but which points you have to make and to to sort of end the point where you know it ends, and then just to showcase that on the slides. I think that would be useful so we can get a better glimpse. I didn't, we've had other conversations before, and I've seen your website and I have some ideas of how your product look, but think of somebody that has never seen it. That's something that you definitely want to showcase, because this is that first impression for a lot of people.
Yep.
Moving into some questions. So I have a question from DR Spinner. So he says, I think it might have made it easier to understand if you personalized it, by which I mean you selected a personal customer and provider and how the model works for them. Did you consider just opening it up to schools and not going through schools?
Well, thank you for the question. It's a very good question. Schools is it's the enemy. It's a frenemy. It's as you know, very conservative institutions. They are not very open to new technology, new ideas, especially with high school students teaching each other. Are they going to be showing each other private parts, right? But at the same time, the high school teacher could really benefit from this. And they can reinforce the accountability. They can make sure that they actually do it in the classroom. So we are considering both. As a matter of fact, on that slide of our traction, I know I kind of went through it quickly. You saw American high schools, and we're looking for Spanish high school right now in particular. A high school in a Spanish-speaking country. We have 6 students that are eager to start, and we've had some bad luck finding people in Spanish-speaking countries trying to do this. So, as a solution, and this is something I was going to talk to Jose, is to see if maybe we can get somebody to endorse us or to promote us to get Spanish-speaking country to find 6 students. And as another way, we were going to target parents or even high school students. We are sure that there are some ambitious high school students in Latin America and Spain that would love to exchange their time and teach Spanish and in return to receive English classes. And we've struggled to do it. So yeah, we're going to do a campaign, possibly on Facebook, maybe YouTube, but I don't speak Spanish good enough, although I'm learning it. So to do this and target parents and individual students. So sorry for a long answer. And it kind of, Jose, your point that I digress sometimes.
That's fine. Moving on to some other questions. Thanks a lot for everyone interacting. So Christopher Burno comments, cops teaching cops, kids teaching kids. This is good, and I feel like it feels like a differentiator to me. Jose agrees. It says, I agree with the entrepreneur. Open it up to the public and make it fun to share it. I guess that that would put you to compete a little bit with Duolingo, like not directly, but how does Duolingo stand in your business? Like, how does that compare? How do you feel? Is it a competitor? Is it a partner? Where do you stand there?
I would say it's both. There's obviously they are the best app, the most used app by everybody, but I think they have the missing ingredient of interaction. And normal interaction will cost upwards of $25-30 an hour. So how do you do this? So the competitor is that obviously they teach language, and sometimes people stop right there and say, okay, this is the app that I'm going to use, and that's it. But we need to get past that we need to, and maybe work together and actually create that one-on-one interaction. And I think the best way to do it is when people have something in common, like high school students or police, law officers. So it's both. Duolingo is both a competitor and a partner, because they could potentially get a commission from exposing their users to this model where the users will teach each other using our platform.
I see. Cool. So adding up to some other comments, Carl agrees with the general sense that if this is a peer-to-peer thing, why not focus it on the general public? He says, what about a monthly subscription fee for users, and you take a cut of that? He says the school system has too much red tape, which is right. Getting into the school system as a business is tough. What do you think about that?
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. There is only one small problem, and this is where the high schools come into play. And again, we're going to try this. The problem is that Americans don't want to learn a foreign language, right? Americans, if they wanted to, they would have. And same thing, because Americans are used to, and it's inherited in their behavior. They're used to going anywhere in the world, and everybody wants to speak English with them. So how do we force them to learn foreign language, right? How do we get this going? So we think that high schools are already doing it for 2 years. And all we're doing is creating this process to kind of replace it or supplement what's currently happening. So then we're creating these kids that will be able to do it. And then it leads us to this whole new business model. But at this time, we decided to start with high schools, because I think it's going to be hard to convince a regular American living in America for so many years, a parent to say, okay, here's what you want to do, and more so pay money for doing this and to teach. Oh my! But I think high schools would be one way to. But we are definitely going to try.
Cool. Christopher Burno suggests, are there any measures? Are there any measures of success built in? It's a question suggestion. Like, do you get a certificate if you achieve a certain level of proficiency? Talking about gamification a little bit.
Absolutely. This is a great question. So let me show you. I'm going to share the screen here real quick again. And I'm going to show you our platform. So all the users and parents can actually go in, and I'm going to look at mine right now. I'm going to go into my personal individual user panel, and I'm going to show you guys what the traction looks like. This is our forte, actually, right? We can go in and we can show progress. We measure error percentage on a lesson-by-lesson basis. And at the same time, we measure how fast the person is speaking from one lesson to another. And this is my Spanish. So just to show you that it's not made up, yo voy a demostrarte como yo estoy hablando español desde yo comencé a aprender atrás 6 meses. Obviously, I made mistakes, and this is the thing. Like, I can go in and I can see, let's say, Jose was my teacher and he typed what I said, right? And I'll be able to look at it, and then he will correct me, right? And then the teacher or the parent can measure what's the error percentage, how much homework I did because of the new vocabulary that was generated, and how many lessons I reviewed. So we can actually show it on a lesson-by-lesson basis. And this is the key part, because if you don't, then you don't feel that you're improving. And this is very important with language learning. you just think that you're in the same position because it's very hard to measure. What are you going to take tests every day? Here we actually show incremental progress, which is very important in our opinion. So this is actually our biggest strength.
I think, to be honest, and I don't know if the community will agree here, but I understand your product and your business so much better with this really quick 1 minute demo that you just gave us, compared to the pitch deck, right? So try to incorporate some of this. Maybe you pre-record it. Maybe that's a good alternative. Just shoot a quick 30-second, with or without narration, demo of how the product works, or a use case. Because that's it just made so much more sense to me, and I'm hearing some agreement on the channel. Another question for you is: have you thought about charter schools or immersion schools? Where are you in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, charter schools is they're a step above regular high school because obviously they are more open to technology. But what's holding us back is that before we can go and blast it and target every freaking high school in America, because it's very easy. They have the information on on the website. You can contact the dean of students, the person who's responsible for languages. I think it's called world language. Before we want to do it, we have to get a case that a high school student in Costa Rica and a high school student in America actually doing this. We have it recorded through Zoom or something like this, and then we can bring it to say that it actually works. Because right now we're hesitant to do it because once the door is closed, it's hard to penetrate it again. So right now we just want to get more, and this is one of the reasons we're doing this pitch competition. This pitch right now is to get people exposed. Maybe somebody can refer us. Somebody can help us find these 6 students that will be able to do it at 11:40 a.m. on Mondays and Thursdays every day for 45 minutes. So yeah, in Spanish-speaking country. So yes, that's the hesitation that we have before going into not viral, but really targeting all the high schools in America and in the world.
I hear you. Moving into, I just noticed this as I was looking at your website. Talk to us a little bit about domains, and then moving kind of like extrapolating the conversation outside of PitchX for a second. Your platform is called Overcome the Barrier. You own the domain overcomethebarrier.com, but that is not your main domain. I see that you have octb.global and octb.us.
Yeah.
What's your thinking around that?
Because when you go to Japan and you try to tell them to say overcome the barrier, or to a Russian-speaking audience, it's like, what is this? So we figured, how do we shorten it? OCTB.com or OCTB or OTB.com are just too expensive to buy. We don't have the capacity right now to do it. OCTB.us, Zoom.us works, so we figured, why not try to do that? And we had a bunch of other ones with OCTB.es, .co.jp, and all the other ones. So that's the way, because for English learners outside of America, overcome is a tough word to say.
I agree, and I see your thinking. What do you guys think? I'd love to hear what the community thinks. It's a very small survey of what you guys think on the. I think it's harder to remember, I guess. OCTB. Obviously, a four-letter domain is impossible. A four-letter.com domain is impossible to buy these days. But I'm curious to see what people think about this. I can see how the foreign language thing is a barrier to use the full domain name. But yeah, I'd love to see what you guys think.
And it's long. So it's very long to type it up. It's crazy.
It is long for sure. Any other, while we get some answers to this survey, any other questions or anything else I can answer? Any other comments, Vladimir? We're 5 minutes out from running out of time.
Yeah. And this is a big one. Like I said, and this echoes what you've always preached, is the traction, right? And we need to get early adopters, and that's what we are looking for. And if you have any feedback, especially that you are from Costa Rica, I know that they're always running late in Latin America. They are always not you, because I've traveled too. But how do I get these 6 students? So what do you think off the top of your head to get these 6 students to do it with my one high school in America that is eager to start before the end of April or before the end of May? How would you go about that? Do you use Facebook? Do you use Instagram? Do you go after parents? Do you go after high school students? Do you go into high schools? What would be the best way to get 6? Because I honestly thought the hardest part would be America, but it turns out it's in Latin America that I'm struggling with.
Yeah, I hear you. Speaking for Costa Rica, I'm originally Costa Rican, if you didn't know that, audience. I think that Facebook's your best shot. Ads on Facebook are cheap. Everybody's on Facebook. Facebook penetration here is much greater than in any other platform. That extends a little bit to Instagram. So Facebook, Instagram.
Okay.
High school students are most certainly there. I don't know if you can advertise to people under 18 years old. I think you can. Going through schools is tough. So much bureaucracy. It's gonna take too long. If you want to get 6 students on board to teach other students before the end of April, a week from now, yeah. If you gave me the challenge, I would run ads on Instagram and Facebook. It won't be expensive, and it should give you quick results. I guess that the challenge for you, and this is a business challenge in general, I'd expect, is for students to kind of hold up to that promise. Like if they sign up for this product platform and that they actually commit to helping out the other students and to get to their sessions on time. That's the challenge. And the first 6 signups are not going to be those guys, but you can get 100 signups, I'd expect, with while spending very little money.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this is why high schools come into play. Because in American high school, they will be in the classroom, sitting during their regular Spanish class doing this. So the teacher will be standing there and they have nothing else to do but to teach. They have to show up on time.
Right. So some feedback on the question around the domain. And I tend to agree. So everybody, Carl, Jose, Christopher, everybody commenting, they all agreed on the name not being that directly related to your business. And like I said, I tend to agree with them. So overcome the barrier is cool. It could be your slogan, right? But for the name, maybe something that's either SEO friendly, so that people are searching for, so that the stuff that they're searching for is on the name of the company. I want to say, when we picked slidebean.com, we wanted to have slide on the domain name, or something. In your case, kind of like learn or teach, or English. One of these words in the domain name might be, or in the company name. This is a very big debate, but in the company name, maybe some of that should relate to the actual business, and then overcome the barrier into your slogan, considering it's a hard thing to pronounce abroad, right? Alternatively, you can just use a random, easy to pronounce word, and then just buy the domain. Again, 4 or 5 letter word domains are very scarce these days, but 6 or 7 words, maybe that's doable. A word that's easy to say. I think that the advantage with something like Duolingo, taking the example from a very successful company, Duolingo is easy to pronounce. I'd expect, certainly in Spanish and certainly in English. So people can easily use that in different languages. So taking a lesson from there, it doesn't mean anything. Well, Duolingo, it translates to 2 languages. I don't know in what. Yeah, 2 languages. But something like that, maybe, where where the product or service is more obvious from the company name, number 1, and number 2, that serves the purpose of being easy to pronounce, and number 3, that obviously you can find an affordable domain. It doesn't have to be the .com, at least the .io or the .us, .org, maybe .co.
Very good suggestions.
All right, guys. Coming to the end of our time now. Like I said, we hold these events every Wednesday. So if you're interested in pitching your company, shoot me a message. You can apply to the demo days via the FounderHub community down there. We hope to see you next week. We have a feedback session tomorrow at noon. So this is a discussion where anybody with a company or with a startup posts a challenge to the community, and people share feedback and ideas or comment on it. So it's sort of like this session, but offline. I mean, not offline, but text based on our Slack community. To everybody who joined, thanks a lot. Vladimir, thanks a lot for your time and for taking the time to prepare a pitch for us today. And we'll see you guys next week, I expect.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. And thank you for the questions and the suggestions.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Vladimir, again, and see you guys next week. Bye.